The Dershow.
The important thing is to recognize that the Supreme Court is today being weaponized by both sides. Both sides want the Supreme Court to do its bidding, and they want the Supreme Court to render decisions that satisfy their political and partisan goals, whether they be abortion decisions, immunity decisions, or gun decisions. The Supreme Court has become a place where ideology has become increasingly important. Look, nobody cared about the Supreme Court throughout most of our history. Obviously, the Dred Scott decision helped precipitate the Civil War, but for the most part, the Supreme Court rendered decisions that didn't affect the lives of ordinary people. But when it got into the business of regulating the bedroom, the deathbed, gay rights, abortion rights, gun rights, people care about who's on the Supreme Court. And that's why, although Justice Ginsburg was confirmed, I think 98-2 or something like that, and others have been confirmed by overwhelming majorities, it really all started with Bork and with my friend Ted Kennedy, who opposed the Bork nomination primarily on ideological grounds. I remember his speech when he was saying Bork would have us live in a world where women have to get their abortions in back alleys, etc. And so Bork got borked, and that became a verb. And then once Bork happened, there was a period of time after Bork when there was still Scalia got confirmed overwhelmingly. But now in recent years, the confirmations have been very, very political. Kavanaugh, very, very partisan and political. Thomas, very partisan and very political. In both those cases, there were allegations of sexual misconduct, neither of which were proved to anybody's satisfaction. But there was enough to create a veneer of controversiality, which led to very, very closely divided votes. And now virtually all Supreme Court appointments are divided very, very closely on ideological grounds. And the Republicans are as much at fault, maybe even more in this case, than the Democrats. They denied Garland the opportunity even to have a hearing because they said that his nomination came too close to a presidential election. Was it 10 months or something like that? And then they appointed Barrett, who within a month or so of the presidential election. Hypocrisy, double standards. You can't justify that. The only reason that Republicans changed their view is not on principle, but because they could, because they had the votes to do it. And so we're seeing the Supreme Court and the entire legal system. We're supposed to have a legal system that's nonpartisan. The law that Biden wants to propose to change immunity is called the "No person is above the law." Yeah, it's a nice statement, no person is above the law, but we have congressional immunity, we have judicial immunity, we have all kinds of immunity throughout our system. Why not presidential immunity of some kind? Maybe the court went too far. In my view, the court did go too far in its evidentiary rulings about immunity, but that doesn't mean there can't be some presidential immunity. So what we're seeing is the complete politicization of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is being turned into an institution that is ideological and political and partisan. Bush versus Gore, 5-4, 5 Republicans voting to make Bush president over 4 Democrats who voted to essentially make Gore president. That hurt the Supreme Court greatly. I wrote a whole book on that called Supreme Injustice, in which I went after all the justices of the Supreme Court who voted in a partisan way, but particularly the Republicans who were overtly political in that case, and particularly my friend Antonin Scalia, who were very rarely granted stays, even in capital cases, and granted a stay in that case. So there's a lot of fault to go around on all sides. But as somebody who cares deeply about the Constitution, who cares deeply about the Constitution of the United States, I've written about it, I've taught about it, I've litigated about it. I want to see our justice system remain ideologically neutral, politically neutral, neutral in a partisan way. That was the framers' intention. Article 3 of the Constitution gives justices life tenure in order not to have them influenced by the political winds of the day. And it's never been 100% neutral. Obviously, the courts have always been influenced by politics, by what's going on outside. And you might say, well, maybe today there's a virtue. It's being done so overtly, it's being done so clearly and so publicly that nobody's fooled anymore. People used to get fooled by the wigs, and other accoutrements of neutrality that were applied. Today, it's out in the open. I don't like it, though. I don't like the fact that courts are so partisan. I don't like partisan justice on either side, and it's very important to try to fight against it in every possible way. We're losing. We're losing that fight, however. We're losing that fight, and we have to regain control over our system of checks and balances.